So, good evening, friends. Welcome to session number 5 for the mini paid group. Almost time, and I'm going to share my screen. Then we can start. Please let me know whether I'm audible, screen is visible, any problems.
Audible as well as visible.
Thank you. So, this is Finance Basics Part 9 in the series which I have been taking since the last year. It's almost a year to the lockdown sessions since I took my first webinar exactly a year ago on Wednesday, 25th of March. It was a Gudi Padwa day. So, day of celebration. That was my debut for the in front of the camera. Of course, not on the laptop mode. It was done on mobile that day. It was the first session, first webinar for the WDA for me, and for most of the lockdown period. It was the first on any of the platforms. So started with the basic series last year. So taken a lot of webinars after that. So all my presentations will always begin with thanking the Lord Almighty has given me much more than what I deserve. And when it comes to finance, I have to thank my dad who has been instrumental in teaching me the clinical part of the finance. So let's begin. So this is my brief biodata. You are all aware of it. So the topic for today is retirement planning. I know I have taken some portion of this in the basics part 7, if any of you remember that. And the same video is now on YouTube as well. So it is a little bit of continuation and a few concepts, say corrected or modified or say solidified in that regard. This is paid group webinar, mini paid group webinar number 5, the best way to calculate your retirement corpus. People actually asked me this thing many a times, so maybe that was the reason behind keeping this session. So we always talk about the retirement goals. I get many questions that what should be the corpus, what I am looking at. So yes, in numbers it can be tangible, in resources it can be intangible sometimes, but there are many other factors which actually need to be taken into account, and it is one of the most important financial goals. And let's see how to decide how to save for the retirement. There are multiple parameters. Every speaker would have its own viewpoint. I'm giving you one of my viewpoints. You are free to accept or differ from what I say. No harm in that to me, but I'll convey only what I feel is good enough to be shared amongst the colleagues. So again, we talk about that. I have always propagated this concept that we should retire early, probably 50, 55. We should aim at retiring, if not fully, at least partially. So we should be looking at that scenario that if we retire early, the flip side is that we will have a longer post retirement life. Of course, death is a certainty in one's life, but we need to understand that given the average life expectancy, if nothing happens to all of us or most of us, we are going to live at least till 80. So if you started working at 25 and retired at 55, you approximately had a working life of 30 years, not counting the peak, the general working life. But if you live till 80 minimum, you'll have a retirement life of 25 years, close to how much you worked. But then, if you have planned for that, for retiring early, you need to understand that the corpus needs to be slightly on the bigger side. Of course, I've told this thing many times. For this, you have to start saving early. But many a times, people don't listen to me or any of the, say, sound advice being given around all of us. They only realize when they see that, yes, certain incidental expenses are coming up. Last exactly a year back, COVID was a good shocker to many of us. And it actually exposed us that we didn't have any emergency fund. We didn't have any, say, solidity in our bank balance, if I can put it bluntly in that regard. But then if you are planning to retire early, as I propagate, you need to have bigger corpus, and for that you have a lesser time to build on that. What does that loosely translate into? It would mean that you have to take the inflation for the future into account as well. You have to take the risk taking capacity in the current scenario. Current scenario means when you are saving and building for your corpus into account. But if you are, say, living on those conditions that you can or you will work till 65, I don't deny you that opportunity. But what I'm saying is you can't be working with the same speed, same zeal, same aplomb till the age of 60 or 65, because competition will come down your neck, your reflexes will slow down, maybe a couple of, say, professional diseases or professional hazards back and the neck can take a toll, may take a toll. So we have to be prepared for that, that our efficiency will not be the same. So then the only aim is to live a comfortable life post retirement. And again, how much to save? The question now is, if you plan to retire at what age, starting from what age you are today. That is the topic of my the whole crux. The base was around starting early or starting late, or maybe longer working life, lesser retirement, or vice versa, lesser working life and longer retirement life. All those things aside, but let's see how to go about the accumulation phase. What are the factors you need to consider while calculating कि मेरे को जब मैं काम करना बंद करूं तो इतने पैसे चाहिए. How do you arrive at that one figure? Because no one knows what is going to happen minimum 20 years down the line. But you need to at least be secure about that part. So, so the number one thing is decide the number of years you have till retirement. And that would mean bygones be bygones. If you didn't start early, if you didn't listen to me, if you didn't listen to anyone else, forget it. Past is past. Let's put a cross mark over that. So, what is the time you have and what you want when you want to retire? I broadly put that age, still I'll put that age at 55. So if you're 40, you have a age of, you have a time period of 15 years, practically. So there is no rigidity in that. It is up to you. Your body knows you pretty well. You know your body pretty well. You know how much you are physically active at the age of 35, 40, or whatever age you are. Whether you are actively involved in any sports activity, whether you are actively playing any game. These are the small pointers or say few links to keep your agility and reflexes going. Trust me, this plays a big role in prolonging your retirement life. People like me who had a back injury in the early stage of the career probably were not lucky for a few years, but then when God was kind, I have continued playing game, and I do it twice a week minimum, sometimes 3 days as well. So it actually keeps you young in a way. You compete with almost half, many of the kids I play with are almost half my age. So practically, it feels great to be amongst them, competing with them. Yes, I might not be always beating them, but there are chances when I do that as well. So you have to understand those situations, and then people have liabilities as well. There are certain loans going on, maybe a housing loan. Housing loans go from, say, minimum 10 to 30 years. So obviously that is a low cost loan running into few thousands and covered for a longer duration. So no harm in that, but you have to be aware of what your liabilities are, and then you calculate accordingly. I'll give you the various parameters along with. So pick and choose the retirement age which suits best in your circumstances. But if you would like to retire early, you need to be aware of the challenges, because the sooner you want, as I said, you want to retire, the longer will be your post retirement life. So if you have a increasingly high income and you're starting late, then you can give yourself a shorter time to build up the corpus. But if the flip side, we take the COVID scenario as well into account, we believe that we have low income. Again, I'll come to the low income part in the end as well, surely. But if you are having high income, you can give yourself You can say divert your 80% of the savings for maybe 10 to 15 years, and that is good enough to earn you a good corpus, mind you. I have done that. I have told you many a times. So try to find out what is the different time frame which suits you the best. So you need to prepare accordingly. Then inflation during the accumulation phase. This is the second factor apart from the number of years, because this is the one of the most neglected aspects. Rupees 100 valued in 2010 is now valued at 71, 72 rupees in 2020. Now it is 2021. So the money decreases in value. Inflation eats into it. So if you actually do not take inflation into account, you are actually say undermining your retirement goals. You need to take that factor as well. Then if you are saving for a few decades, if we can say 20 to 25 years minimum, you are going to that. You may live longer than 80 as well. It is just the average Indian expectancy that I told you. So again, the expenses will grow. So the savings have to be aligned to meet those. So people always, the experts put those 6% rate inflation at 6% approximately. So, but again, it depends upon your lifestyle as well. Your how say rich or high flying lifestyle you have, or how much your expenses are. Then estimate the desired monthly expenses in retirement. Considering in today's times, maybe no worries in that. So regular income will come only from the savings that you have done. So higher income you want, so the bigger corpus you will have to build for that, surely. So, but if you keep your income requirement low, it will not be good enough to sustain your retirement expenses. You will should remember that. And we are the ones who are not going to have any pensions, even if we are working in colleges. Very less chances that only our lucky ones may be working in government college, maybe, but those working in private colleges will not have any kind of pension also. So whatever you have to build from your own corpus. So link your current lifestyle and factor in the impact of inflation. How will you do that? I'll give you the formula, of course. So you can take your current household expenses minus the loan repayments and investments as well. You have to take account of all those things, your current expenses, your lifestyle changes, your loan or liabilities due, and your investments you are making. All those things I've given you the formulas of saving many a times, but don't be rigid about those formulas. I'll come to that percentage as well. So this is the formula broadly we follow. If we say the current monthly expenses, we presume E is, I'm giving you the figure as well, 40,000. So this is in one line, calculating the expenses at the time of retirement. So without the boundaries. So if the current monthly expenses, we presume E are 40,000, and we expect annual inflation are at 6%. And let's suppose we believe that we have 30 years to retire. Presuming you're 30, presuming you're 25, we take that in. So the monthly expense at the time of retirement, keeping the inflation into account with this formula, is E, the capital E, will be 2,29,740 rupees. So in 30 years from now, 40,000 will approximately be six times. 40 into 6 is 2,40,000. So in 30 years, your 40,000 expense monthly will be 2,40,000 or 2,29,000 approximately. So you need to factor those things into account. So this is the calculation of your expenses first. Now we'll come to the calculation of the corpus. So this is the formula you can use. You can take a snapshot of the say formula. So this is a very common formula, nothing new about it. So what is the rate of inflation during the post-retirement phase? So once you have retired, the inflation will still, you don't have a steady flowing income except the interest income. Your inflation will eat into that corpus as well. Your expenses will go out of that corpus as well. So the planning has to be for about 5 decades or so, including the pre and post-retirement. People don't factor in these factors. Whenever I talk to colleagues, oh यार कितने साल और जीना, देखी जाएगी, जो होगा देखा जाएगा. And this is a wonderful statement we use in Punjab, jo hoga dekha jayega. I don't know the answer to this, but most of most of us Punjabis use this statement. So the factors from 30 to 80, if you are 30, living till 80, you have to factor inflation for the both pre and the post retirement. So the average will go down slightly because the inflation is going to eat. The lifestyle expenses are going to eat into our corpus. जितना हमने कोविड इमीडिएट कोविड टाइम में 3 महीने में 4 महीने में realized that we hardly have any lifestyle expenses because everything was closed. There were no restaurants open, there were no malls open, there was no shopping, there was no vacation, there were no marriages happening, there were no movies. Every kind of recreation was shut off practically. We realized that the actual living expenses are less. But whatever yes, many of us had zero incomes or close to very minimal income those times as well, courtesy the say shutting off our clinics as well, because the dentistry was made a huge hue and cry out of that as well. But then ultimately things changed, economy started growing, and now I will say whatever we were paying last year for even the normal living expenses, we are at least paying 20 to 30% more than that in less than a year. We are just at the say pinnacle of 1 year anniversary of COVID, and the things we actually envisaged at the end of 4 months post March, maybe in June or July, we actually are paying 20 to 30% more. There are various reasons: political changes, economic changes, the Kisan Andolan, the say lack of transport, the delayed transport. Many reasons are there, but whatever it is, we are paying 20 to 30% more. So we are just taking inflation at 6%, which is an average. The government figures might be 4 to 5%. Even the government figures might be on the higher side. So we are a growing country. We are a developing country. The economists of the world put India in the top 5 growing economies. Whenever they say, whenever they talk of economic revival, or whenever they say what will be the economy like in 2030, 9 years from now, or 10 years from now. So they talk India to be in the top 5 growing countries, whatever its status is otherwise, other than developed countries. So if the country is growing, the inflation will also be at a higher, on the higher side. So you need to factor in that as well. So if you are earning well or not well, but if you are not saving, you are actually decreasing your money courtesy inflation. You're keeping that money with you, say not invested anywhere, that money is actually decreasing in value. So when the growth rate falls, inflation also subsides or decreases. So we talk of the say glowing India. If the economy revival is touted at 12 to 15% for India, the inflation will be on the higher side as well. And if the growth is less, obviously inflation will also, because when the economy is prospering, people are earning well, they'll also spend well as well. So inflation creeps in automatically. So keep this in mind. You may try a lower inflation during post-retirement phase, even if it is more than 2 decades away. As I said, nobody knows the future, but you need to understand these factors very clearly. Then, what is the expected rate of return during retirement years? We don't know. Uh, if I talk 15, or if I say 18 years back, maybe 18 years back, fixed deposits were at 13%, 14%. My dad had it at 16%, courtesy 1 year, 1% for the staff and 1%. It used to be 1% for the senior citizen in those days. I had it at 14% in 2003 or 4. So my dad had it at 16%. Imagine the drastic fall. It is at 5 point something percent. It is one third of what it was. Who knows what it will be in 20 years or 10 years or 15 years from now? You know the Western culture. There you actually pay for storing your money or keeping your money in the bank. We still get some interest ranging from two and a half, yes, 2.5 to 7%, varying from nationalized to private banks. But in foreign countries, many of the foreign countries, you actually pay for keeping your money in the bank. Who knows? If the economy grows, maybe we have a similar scenario. So where will you have actually the growth coming from? So then that means in your growing years, you have to take a higher risk comparatively for some portion of your corpus so that it grows multifold. I'm not saying the whole thing, but you need to be proactive, little bit aggressive in your at least 25 to 40-year period age group, if I may say so. Yes, we talk about 80 minus 100 minus age or 80 minus age for the equity, but you need to realize that your money can't be keeping growing at 5 or 6 or 7%. Even that is not possible in today's times. After tax returns are close to 4.5 to 5%. Even if it is a decent enough government investment or a debt investment, the equity is variable. Uh, we witnessed peaks in the early March. By 3rd or 4th March, it was the peak of the stock market. And there, after the FII, the foreign institutional investor started selling, 25% of them were exiting the market, courtesy the US bond inflows. Those things started happening, and the market had been continuously falling. Yes, it ended today in green after so many days, but it is lunging around 48,000 something, 48,800 points approximately. And it touched a peak of 54,000 on 3rd or 4th March. And just 23 days, and it is down by at least, say 1.5 to 2%. So you need to understand those things. So for increasing your return on investment, you can actually say go in equities, mutual funds, even the NPS. So NPS is the second fastest growing investment other than the equity. So the other things have now come down drastically. National pension system is actually kind of a pension fund which offers you decent enough returns from 10 to 12%. Minimum is the 9%. So you need to be invested in national pension system as well. So then uh, people have a higher penchant or a higher risk appetite. They opt for alternate investment funds or maybe gold. Even the gold was at its lowest today, 44,300 something. Then silver, commodities, or real estate investment trusts, REITs as we call them. But then after retirement, all these risk appetites will come down. We discussed in the basics part 7 as well that post retirement, you need not be putting every portion of your every single penny in the debt part. You need to be proactive in that phase also. You need to say be invested some portion in the equity as well, even at that time. We discussed in the basics part 7. So if you don't remember it, you can watch videos part 7. It is on YouTube already. So for a realistic financial plan, remember, immediately people say it is good to go for a conservative return, which is sometimes on the safer side. Okay, but if it is good only if you have a good corpus. Good corpus means you have a corpus in the range of 5 to 10 crores, so which is sometimes not possible for a middle class guy. So people, what do they prefer post retirement for returns? They'll go towards safe investment products, the SCSS, Senior Citizen Savings Scheme, or PMVVY, Pradhan Mantri Vaya Vandana Yojana, or the RBI floating bond, monthly income schemes. So all these are in the range of presently about 6.5 to 8.5 approximately. These are all in the range of that. And and even some prefer fixed deposits even till today. So they people may have their own notions, but as I explained previously as well, some portion should be there for the equity as well. So now come to the formula calculating the retirement corpus. That was about say your monthly expenses. Now calculating your retirement corpus need. So if the life expectancy is n, means you say after retirement approximately 25, considering you retire at 55. I'm giving you the formula for 55 to 25 till going till 80. If you expect your rate of return approximately at 7% average, considering you have a mix of debt and equity to a portion, then only in going by today's times, we can arrive at a percentage of 7. I've kept it on the lower side. Then what is the annual inflation post retirement? The G approximately at 5%. So what are your monthly expenses? We calculated that it was 2,29,000. So if you multiply that by 12, your annual expenses would be 27 lakhs approximately, if we talk of that scenario. So what is the corpus needed? What is the amount needed by you? You need to calculate that. The calculation comes out to approximately 5 crores, so that your corpus is growing as well and it will last you at least 25 years given by this scenario. You can take a snapshot of this formula as well. It is not that difficult as it looks on the screen. It is easy to calculate, and these can be done in Excel as well. I shared a few Excel books last year as well. So in our example, what I have taken for the expenses, if your current household expense is 40,000, in if you're 30 years away from your retirement, you will need a corpus of 5.18 crores given by this figure, because your 40,000 will become your expense of 2 lakh and 29,000 considering those times. But then inflation was assumed at 6% during your pre-retirement, and during the post-retirement we assumed it at 5%. So this can vary, and the returns are also, I kept it at a minimum of about conservative about 7%. So this corpus is good enough to last you for a period of 25 years at this growth and this inflation. So this is the way you can calculate. You can watch this video again. You'll get to know, you can calculate the formula, how, and because these things will change, how many years you are away and how much expense you currently have will actually determine. You can keep the rest of the factors same, the inflation and the return part. You will arrive at this figure. So if your investment generates annual return of 10%, you will need to invest 25,000 per month for 30 years to build 5.18 crores. And what number I give you usually for anyone who is starting off to save, minimum put in 5 lakhs a year or 40,000 per month, approximately 5 lakhs a year. If you're going that with a mixed bed of investment, if you're generating an annual return of 10%, which I always say you should be arriving at that figure, considering that you have to beat the inflation part, inflation in your living expenses. As I always give the example that if your living expenses were 50,000 last year, this year it would be in the same time period 55,000. If we take the inflation in living expenses part, it is going to be 10%. But if we talk of the overall inflation, it might be close to 4 to 5. So these formulas can be used in Excel as well. So you can try various combinations. What is your going to be monthly expenses currently? Obviously, with the formula, you can arrive at the future figure with that. It will give you easy calculation. But what exactly is your expense today and how many years you have, you can keep those two constants and you can actually say arrive that how much you need to save for your future. People say live in present, don't worry about the future, but unfortunately when it comes to finance, you really have to worry about future as well, because it is very difficult to live to ask for money from kids in your future life or in your old life. And trust me, the biggest gambling is done not exactly money wise, but biggest gambling is done by the aged people only, to put in to buy a property or to gift to their kids, or maybe to spend a bomb on their marriages, and ultimately they're left with a very very small corpus. I'll share a story in the group in a text form about which I read some time back, about an elderly couple who wished that their story be, say, shared with the world, that how they actually say killed their retirement dream. And in those cases, those husband and wife didn't want to be a burden on their children, and the wife was least interested in the finance. Said, I'm not interested, it is too complicated. You take care of those things. I know you are the best judge. And the husband used to disclose only the profit, but not the loss making things. And trust me, whatever they arrived at is actually a painful story to read. I'll share that, if possible, I'll share that tomorrow early morning. For those who are attending this session, they might find this story relatable to what I am sharing right now. So now this is the suggested plan. इतना एक्सपेंस है, इतने years हैं, तो इसका फिगर पे आप आ जाइए. तो इतना कॉर्पस अगर आपके पास है, तो दैट मीन्स आप इतने से शुरू करेंगे टू सेव minimum. The only bottom line is to actually put in a incentive in you to save the money for your rainy days, for your golden days, for your heydays, whatever you can call them, for your old days. But then plans can go wrong, things can go haywire. How to ensure that your retirement plan is self-sufficient? What are the various tips and tricks for that? Firstly, see the reasons, because in the reasons lie the solutions. If you reverse the reasons, you will always say arrive at solutions. So few reasons people fail at saving, they actually underestimate inflation. As I told you, inflation is a key factor in the pre-retirement and post-retirement both. So in this formula, I have factored in the inflation part as well. So it is very essential that you use a retirement savings calculator and recognize what amount you are going to need for your future. Then failure to calculate living expenses. कोई बात नहीं, देखा जाएगा. People live life king style. They actually fail to realize certain things in their say in their current time as well. So you need to actually uh, say factor out that where you are. And most of us also live a life of debt. We actually can't get hold of those periods where we are actually debt free. एक लोन खत्म होता तो हम लोग दूसरा शुरू कर लेते हैं. Yes, the zeal to grow is good, but if you can grow simultaneously, invest for your future, and not compromise on that, or not compromise on your alternate trip, which I always say, then you're free to take any loan. If your current income is good enough to take care of your living expenses, good enough to pour in at least a decent amount of 40,000 per month minimum for your retirement savings, then the remaining you can use to buy any loan. Yes, it is a personal choice again, but what I mean to say is that those two factors should be taken care of first before taking the road to debt or the road to loan. Being a banker's son, I will always be against it. But yes, I understand in today's time, many things are not possible without loan. But then understand that it should not compromise on those two things that I mentioned. Then don't just rely on a rule of thumb based on percentage. I gave you the Bhavti formula as well, the general standard formula as well. But it is, you don't have to be rigid for certain things. That formula is for those people who are not actually aware of what they are doing. You should be actually aware of, and that is again a startup point for many of us, that you actually should have an idea or inkling of where to start from. कैसे segregate करें, कितना need में डालें, कितना want में डालें, कितना alternate rip में डालें. So those formulas are for the starters. For people like me, we don't follow such formulas. We followed a different template because we were settled. Those so don't just rely on only on those. I mean to say, so there can be sometimes a huge disconnect between actually what people earn and what they spend. So then the lure of early retirement. Our profession is really not very kind on our body. So we always want the day we have the 3 root canal obturations lined up in the morning. The first expression, "Ay hai, सुबह से लगना पड़ेगा, काम करना पड़ेगा." We give a dirty look to our assistant or staff. like यार तीनों एक ही दिन शेड्यूल करने जरूरी थे क्या? So yes, again, the choices may differ. Somebody might be loving a root canal, but just giving an example, these things can happen with many people. Then most of us retire late. Indians don't have a habit to retire early. We actually can't afford to because we don't have huge money and we want to keep working as long as we can. There is a dentist who is almost 75 in my town and he's still working. And he says, I work full time. I don't know the fact, but he says, I work full time because I didn't actually save for my say retirement, so I have to keep working. So I pity him actually. He has two daughters, both of them are married at far off places, one in Canada and one in say a small town in Himachal, where you actually have a very remote access by via road even. So they don't have anyone to look after that them as well. So it is a very pitiful life at the age of 75, even if it still working to make ends meet. So I don't know, maybe there might be reasons for them. So I asked him once, so he only said, "मेरे loan बहुत late खत्म हुए, इससे आगे मैं क्या कहूँ?" So that one line was good enough to summarize that what actually are our liabilities. We try to build on our future. The actually loans are taken to build our future, but the actual future is built by these retirement investment plannings only. So early retirement or late, voluntary or forced, it all means that lower savings and more years or higher savings and less years. So it can be vice versa. It depends upon you what you want to choose. But remember to factor in inflation, remember to factor in the investment, and remember to factor in nice and wise investment when you do that. Then understated longevity expectations. People die young sometimes, unnaturally also due to accident, due to illness. And trust me, I know a few people who actually started saving uh, at that time when they unfortunately left this world. So what is the security for their family? Nothing. Family actually is left struggling in cases of such mishaps. So if you want to make to retirement age in good health, you can actually say expect to live beyond your lifespan as well. But be aware of these calamities which can strike anyone. Then the illusion of wealth. We actually say are very much illusion, want to be a millionaire or a billionaire. And once we have a corpus of 1 crore, even in the young late 30s or early 40s, we suddenly are on the moon. बोला 1 करोड़ कमा लिया अब तो चिंता कोई नहीं, एक का दो, दो का पांच होने में टाइम नहीं लगेगा. That is where the mind gets say sorted out. We are dissorted in that sense. We actually fail to realize that 1 crore is nothing if we consider in those scenarios what it is. Then spread those savings over many years of retirement, and sometimes lump sum will transmute into a modest annual income. So these above points will cover the planning issues where the planning can be going wrong. But what actually can say even worsen it is subpar investment returns, maybe low bank rates to meager stock gains, and these are all added layers of difficulty in recent years. बोलते many people actually contact me on WhatsApp and they ask, सर आप बोलते तो इन्वेस्ट कर दो, स्टॉक मार्केट का हाल देखो क्या है, म्यूचुअल फंड की रिटर्न देखो क्या है. But why do you look at the short term returns? Look at the broader picture, look at the long term gains. Don't worry about those past parts. So retirement summary for today. Retirement saving is not a pleasant task. We all know that. There's a lot of detailed work and actually the sacrifice of putting aside your money for your retirement. But sooner or later, every one of us will have to come up with a plan. And the key is longer before retirement, you come up with that plan, the more options you will have. Make your money work for you is the bottom line always. You There are no two ways about it. You can't go about that path. So now the commonest excuse I come across, सर मेरी इनकम ही बहुत कम है, कोविड ने और मार डाल दी, मैं तो क्लिनिक नया खोला था, आई हैव दिस काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन वेयर आई एम नॉट अर्निंग वेरी वेल, तो मैं क्या करूं, आप बताइए. So let me give you a few tips in the summary section. Of course, I could have kept these in the different heading as well, but now I've kept these in the summary portion because this is the way the low earners or the say less income guys. Many of us have a fall in income. Some have a say shoot up in income as well after COVID or during COVID. It is still not after COVID. So the number one tip would be to start early. So the key is whatever your income is, if you start early, as early as possible, you will have good time period to grow. That is the golden saying, and that I have been saying since many years now. Then eliminate your debt, especially high interest rate credit card debt, before you save for your retirement. So as I say, if even if you have high aspirations, high ambitions, you want to grow, don't compromise on your living expenses, don't compromise on your retirement planning. If you can go about the task of doing so, go for the loan if you want. Then you have to look at where you are with your debt, assets, and liabilities. That is actually the red zone area you need to understand. And because debt is going to eat away every bit of savings that you have, you need to remember that if you are actually higher into the debt. So that is the reason we said no kind of debt should exceed 30 to 40% of your net income. It should never be exceeding that. Then your interest rates on credit cards, we always talk about that 36 to 48% returns. So it is always better to get rid of these things because if you get rid of your debt, you can start saving that day very easily. Then take advantage of tax saving maximally. I've discussed this point in many of the webinars. So you all must be aware of it by now. Then prioritize your savings. And prioritization means you have to be very diligent. And that would also mean foregoing some of your luxuries. So you need to understand that. And because sometimes too much spending on unnecessary items can hurt your retirement plans. So gotta be very realistic and understand that these things do that. Then make it automated, as they say in a SIP format, or the format where you don't have to actually worry that the money will get deducted, because that ways it will be a regular, dedicated and a disciplined investment. Because and after a time, after a while, you get used to it also, and you don't realize that slowly and slowly your say corpus or the nest egg is at a very higher say valuation. Then use extra money to your advantage. If you have any bit of extra money flowing in from any source, make sure that you save some of it say congenially amongst that your wherever you are sectioning it for your family, save it for your retirement as well. Then different extra money if you expect from any other source, put that also for retirement as well, surely. So Benjamin Franklin said about 200 years ago, nothing is certain except death and taxes. And you might find it amusing that most of the Indians find a way to elude the latter, the taxes. Of course, you can't elude death, but they find a way to elude taxes. But that comes at the cost of tax saving, that comes at the cost of wealth creation. I have many videos on YouTube on tax saving and wealth creation, so I'm not going to go into details for that. But everything comes at a cost, and those things are there. But then, if these two are certain, the third most certain thing is retirement, considering the average life expectancy. So, if that is the case, are we doing the right planning for our retirement? That is the question I want all of you to ask yourself. If not, start today. So the retirement plan has to be at the center, epicenter of all your savings, all your investments, all your say uh, income, expenditure, whatever. It should be at the epicenter, and it should not be a thing which should be ignored, delayed, or missed. So the carry home gyan for today, it is a shorter one. So best time to start saving is always now. No procrastination for this. So regardless of your goals, it's the key to not let a late start. ये लेट हो गया कोई बात नहीं, 10 जब जागो तब सवेरा, that is the way they say. So no matter whatever age is, start off. So when you start saving for retirement, you will actually be very confident, and start feeling financially secure after some amount of time, especially if it is an automated one, because life expectancy is rising, and God forbid none of us say have a natural calamity or unnatural cause of death. Our retirement years might be more than your working years, so you need to understand, if not for you, it might be for your family, for your wife, for your spouse, for your children. Yes, there might be different reasons. It is, you are not concerned about you, you have to be concerned about your family as well. So take those factors into account, that if you are not there, what will happen to your family. So have a solid plan in place. It'll give a peace to your mind as well, and a sound sleep in the night to your family as well. So because when you do it for yourself, it is for you only, and your family, of course, and no one else. You can't do that. It is a gift of security, as I say. It is a gift that you can gift only to yourself. So the bottom line is that you start planning today. So the retirement equation has to be like this: saving versus spending, and the asset allocation and location. These have to be in total control. And the other factors sometimes might not be, uh, say, having some control, like your employment or your earnings or your longevity. And totally out of control are the market returns and taxation and savings and benefits. So you need to take the blue, the red, and the green into account. So this is the moral of today's lecture. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. I hope I was exactly in time, almost 45, 46 minutes into the presentation. So YouTube channel, there are a lot of videos. Soon the videos will be touching 300. So starting from Sunday, there will be a short videos of 5, 6 minutes every alternate day till the end of April. So approximately about, I think about 20 videos will be going live every alternate day. So then the webinars, whichever I will be taking in March and April, will be there from May onwards. So keep posting that, because many of them have been already scheduled. Many are on their way to be scheduled. So you are going to have a lot of content on YouTube. You can share with your colleagues as well. So you can get in touch with me. You already are. If you want to read, the finance series is already there on my website. So do post your feedback in any mode, in any way. I'll be welcoming it and taking it on my chin. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. And I stop sharing my screen for the question answers. Yes. You can ask any of the questions if you feel any of the concepts that are not clear to you. You can ask me. This was a story I actually told in the reverse format. I've told the retirement planning in the straight format, from start to end. This I actually told from end to middle and then to start. So this was a little change from what I have been doing. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any queries. All still working in clinic?
Not me, sir.
At home?
नहीं सर, हो गया क्लिनिक, लेकिन क्लिनिक में ही हूँ. 8
Okay.
o'clock ही खत्म हो जाता है हमारा, तो we shut down the clinic, but I'm still in the clinic, not yet changed.
Okay, okay. Any queries? Any questions? Any point not clear?
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
I joined late, but nice informative seminars.
Thank you.
How are you doing, sir? Otherwise,
I'm doing good, ma'am. Trying to actually lift up myself from the negative mindset or the negative situations I encountered recently.
you've not been very active for quite some time, sir. Maybe a lot of situations around you.
lot of things and still not out of it. But then I'm relying on my past strengths to say, get me through. Hopefully, I will surely.
Yeah, we're missing your morning things and your webinars and your Zoom meeting links and your FB
Right.
live and all
Trust
that.
trust me, I was not ready even this week as well.
Okay.
Just forcing myself into this scenario to take the webinars because I can delay it as much as I want, but then there can never be an end to negativity because
Lot of family issues, sir.
many family issues, but then certain depressing scenarios, certain own say loss of certain things, they are not in your control many a times. Yes, those things are part of life, have to take them in the stride. But this week I actually forced myself for everything.
Okay.
Certain things I've kept a deadline till 31st March that I'm not going to do those things, but then I couldn't be waiting till April to start, so I forced myself. The Friday would be the regular ones, and next week onwards the next session would be parallelly along with Tuesday would be practice management and or medical legal, depending upon whatever topic I say encroach upon a night before. So, and Fridays would be finance only, sure. The type of chacha would be in finance only. At least April, it'll be going on. At least I'll try to take about 8 sessions every Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday
Tuesday,
might,
Thursday, Friday.
Tuesday
Tuesdays and
might,
Friday.
no, Tuesdays and Fridays.
Oh,
Tuesdays and Fridays. Maybe a Tuesday might change to a Wednesday some week, but otherwise the Friday will be a constant. The other thing, at least in April, May we'll see. Just trying to cover up the backlog that I missed for these things. Trying to say justify those things to myself at least, later to the group members because I'm answerable first to myself, then to other guys, everyone around me.
okay. There's a question, sir.
Yes, Sabasati, I'll post that formula in the group. Don't worry. I'll post the snapshot as well. Okay, then I stop the recording and stop the live stream. Raghu, you can stay on for your that query on you asked about that form 3C. So I'll end this session. Just let me stop the recording. For that, I ask any queries on the today's topic. If there are none, I'll stop the recording and then the session for the Dr. Raghu's query will continue for 7 more minutes till he
Okay, sir.
is answered, queries answered. Okay. I'm stopping the live stream and I'm stopping the recording as well.